What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Gaming Without Parole. Sitting across from me, as always, is Dezrah.
And sitting across from me is Brian Paul.
Hey, what's going on? Still haven't come up with a catchphrase.
What's going on? Someone's taken that one already.
What's happening?
Nope, someone's got that one already.
¿Qué pasa?
I'm sure someone in Univision has that.
Excellent.
Well, that's Nydia.
Oh. So, this is your first time watching Gaming Without Parole. We're off to a good start.
Yay!
Make sure you subscribe to us down there, the little red button, click it, because we do all sorts of things other than this podcast. We do reviews and Let's Plays and another podcast. We give you more than you could possibly consume.
Or want.
Yep. Probably one as well. But if you do want it all, then hey, why don't you hit us up on Patreon, patreon.com/withoutparolegames, and throw us a couple bucks. We're only $3,994 away from reaching our monthly goal.
So you're saying there's a chance?
We get $6 a month. So thank you, all three of you.
Yay!
Dezrah, what are we talking about this week?
Today we're talking about my bread and butter, the Xbox, the original Xbox.
Oh, that's my favorite genre of game.
No, it's not.
No.
You filthy liar.
No, in fact, I need to put out a confession right here and now. Normally when we do these episodes, I am very well prepared because I've played all these games before, and I usually come from a perspective of knowledge and history, and I'm kind of a gaming fanatic.
Right, it's his thing.
It's my thing. It's my only thing, actually. If you know me, I got nothing else. So,
well, there is that other thing.
Oh, that's pretty awesome. Oh, they're long gone. So, like, around this time, around the original Xbox time, I was obsessed with PlayStation 2. And then later on, GameCube.
Yeah.
And I never really got around to the original Xbox until 5 years ago.
We forgive you.
Because it became kind of retro chic to start collecting Xbox stuff. And so I finally bought an original Xbox, and I have a bunch of Xbox games. And honestly, I tried all of them for about 5 minutes. And, and so until we decided to do this episode, I hadn't played many of them.
Okay.
So I did tons of research for this episode. But obviously, we're going to talk about, like, a bunch of games.
Yeah. So
I couldn't play through all of them. I played some of all of them.
Some of all of them. And for me, the Xbox was my console. I was, I said it before, I was mostly a PC gamer at this point. And I was of the generation where, like, oh, there's this new first-person shooter named Halo coming out for the PC. We're all excited. And then it went away. And we were like, why? What's happening? And eventually the Xbox came out. So I was right up there, playing Halo, all that other fun stuff. And actually, in reality, the dirty little secret of the Xbox, it's a PC.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, if in fact its name actually comes from Direct Xbox.
Correct.
That was that's the whole brilliant idea behind that.
And what a brilliant idea it was. Like, why not have a standardized PC in one box and then just have people make games for it?
Right.
Still kind of confused as to why we don't do that.
Yeah, well, there's a whole lot of manufacturing reasons and money reasons.
Of course.
Of course, you can charge more if it's all specialized hardware.
Yep.
And with the original Xbox, it was really off-the-rack items. For instance, if you wanted to swap out your hard drive on the original Xbox, you just went down to Best Buy, picked up a new hard drive, put it in.
It's pretty awesome.
Now, you cannot do that. No. If you want to add memory, you have to buy the special one that fits with your particular chassis of Xbox, and yeah.
Oh, before we start getting into a whole conversation about the Steam box or something along those lines, maybe we should talk about some of the games that we loved about the original Xbox.
Sure.
You want to take us away?
Yeah, I'll take us away. This is one that, honestly, I had kind of forgotten about. I still have my original Xbox. Anyways. And there's probably maybe a dozen games that I still have from when I originally had it. Some other games I've sold or lent out. And Tim? Yeah, Tim, I'm talking to you.
We're coming for you, Tim.
Not that Tim, the other Tim. You still have my copy of Deus Ex Invisible War. I remember that one. Let's get that back someday. All right. Anyways. But this game I had completely forgotten about because I had lost track of my original copy. This is Mech Assault.
Yeah.
If the words Mad Cat, Atlas, Titan, those mean anything to you, then this is going to be your game. I actually played so this is based off of the BattleTech or the BattleMech role-playing game series.
Okay.
A pen and paper role-playing game. If you want your detail-oriented, oh my gosh, I need to know every physical stat about this machine, that was your kind of game. There's been a lot of different ways of bringing BattleTech, BattleMech to video game consoles to varying degrees of success. One thing that a lot of them try to do is capture the simulation aspect of it. These are imaginary machines, but the level of detail behind piloting these machines is crazy. In this particular version, it was actually by Microsoft Studios. Came out in 2002. They did a little less of the simulation and a little more of just let's get out there with giant robots and blow stuff up.
Which is kind of what everybody really wants.
Yeah, well, I mean, there's your hardcore who are like, this isn't a real battle, a battle mech. Ooh.
There's always one of those.
Yeah, and there's a lot of those kind of fans of this genre. But for the rest of us, this was a fantastic game. The single-player campaign was pretty fun. Very destructible environments, which was nice because, it was mech versus mech, but there also were little people running around with missile launchers and whatnot. And you could actually take care of them pretty easily. If they were near a building, you just shoot out the bottom floor of the building would collapse. Bye-bye, little guys.
Pretty awesome.
Yeah, lots of fun. It did capture some of the ideas of the original battle mechs where overheating was always a big problem. And it kind of captured that. If you fired, most of your guns had unlimited ammo, but if you just held your finger down on the fire button, it would fire and eventually overheat, and your weapon would shut down, which stopped it from being just kind of a run and gun, blow everything up.
Sure.
You had to be a little strategic about when you started firing. They had a good mix of the mechs from the original pen and paper game. I think there were a dozen different models. And it's pretty, by today's standard, pretty simple, but fantastic. Of course, the real core of this game was the online multiplayer. It was so much fun. If you've ever, played any of the mech series, getting online, there was a local multiplayer you could do, but it was one of the first games to really start taking advantage of the Xbox Live sort of environment. And it was a blast. Unfortunately, since they no longer support Xbox Live for the original Xbox,
it's all over.
It's all over.
It's all over.
And I was going to say, I was going to wrap this up. I was thinking, you know what? You can probably pick up this game for like, $6-7 at an online retailer or something. And, it'd be worth it just play the co-op. Yeah, you can't. It's really expensive now.
Is it really?
I was looking around at some sources. I mean, this is like $20, $30. I saw one version that was like a Japanese import for like $180.
Craziness.
So I don't know if this, from what I know, it was a pretty big, decent seller. I don't know if it ever made it to a platinum hits level, but there's something that in my little bit of research I did is kind of unexplained. I guess it's pretty hard to get a handle on this thing now.
Well, I bought all my Xbox games probably 5 years ago.
Okay.
And it was the perfect time to buy it because there were almost no expensive Xbox games at that time.
Right.
So I picked up Mech Assault 1 and 2.
Okay.
Real cheap.
Yeah.
$5 each.
And that's probably what they should be realistically, but apparently the collector's market is starting to take over, so...
Steel Battalion, if you want to play an Xbox mech game and you have a few extra $100 laying around, that's an expensive one with a gigantic controller. But we're not going to spend any time on that because I don't have a few extra $100 laying around.
And if you really want to go crazy, there are other games based in this universe, and I don't know if we can throw some of the pictures up. Basically, completely enclosed cabinets. There were some arcade versions where, I mean, you want all the buttons and switches. Like Steel Battalion was that too. Like there was actually, from what I remember, like a 15-step sequence just to get your thing fired up and running, and if you didn't do it right, you would die.
Sounds like a Saturday night.
Yeah. So, Mech Assault, if you can find a copy of it, great. If not, Brian has a copy, you can borrow his.
It's not like I'm playing it.
Actually, I might borrow yours.
So one of the cool things that happened when, probably the only thing that cool that happened when the Sega Dreamcast failed, was that Sega took all these games that were in development. Yeah, it's such a great system.
It really was.
I can't wait to have an episode about that because I've played all of those. Was that all these games were in development? Sega had a ton of them in development for the Dreamcast.
Yep.
And somehow I think the Windows-based architecture of the Dreamcast and the Xbox,
imagine that,
were pretty easy to port things over. So we got a metric ton of awesome Sega games on the Xbox soon after the Dreamcast went south. Now, I'm only going to talk about two of them.
Okay.
But I think they're two of the best. One of them, Panzer Dragoon Orta.
Yes.
Now, this is technically the 4th game in the Panzer Dragoon series, the 3rd rail shooter, though. Of course, we all know Panzer Dragoon Saga was the 3rd one. Sprawling, epic, RPG. Didn't age too well. Watch my review. YouTube.com/withoutprogames. It was, but what a great series. Like, all 3 were on the Saturn, and we couldn't wait for the Dreamcast one, and here it is on the Xbox.
Yeah. Well,
I was a little disappointed.
But at least we got it.
At least we got it. We also got Toe Jam and Earl 3. How do you feel about that?
Toe Jam.
Mm-hmm.
See? Toe Jam Earl 4 right here for free.
There's 5 toes on that foot.
Yeah, that's also probably not going to show up.
I've actually never counted. I have no idea how many toes you have on that foot. But Panzer Dragoon Orta, maybe I should get my notes in order, was released on by Smilebit, which a lot of the people who made previous Panzer Dragoon games, Team Andromeda, they migrated over to Smilebit when they shut down Team Andromeda. So that worked out pretty well. So there was a lot of original team members there. 2003. Now, when I booted this game up just, earlier today to try this out, amazing from the opening cinematic, the music, this orchestral music, like starts swelling up, and then the voiceovers, and it all has like the visual aesthetic. It just screams Panzer Dragoon. Like, this is made for the fans. I can't imagine they thought it was it's beautiful too. Look how beautiful that is.
This came out 14 years. No, you said 2003. 13 years ago.
Yeah. It was. It looks amazing, and actually, I always talk about how when you plug in an old console into an HD television, it doesn't look good. You always need to get an upscaler or something to make it look nice. But right now I've got on my original Xbox component out into my HD television, and I gotta say, I mean, I know it could look better, but it looks pretty fantastic.
Yeah,
surprisingly so. So, yeah, I just started this up and immediately was brought back to my old Sega Saturn days. I can't believe I never sat down and played through this entire thing. If you're not familiar with Panzer Dragoon, at least the shooter part of the series, you ride on the back of a dragon, basically.
Right.
You control it going up, down, left, and right. You can spin the camera around so that you 360 basically, so you can shoot in any direction. And you have to do that constantly because there's always enemies coming from all directions.
It's as much of a no-brainer as walking around a giant robot. I mean, flying on a dragon, walking around a giant robot, these are things we want to do in video games.
Absolutely. Now I just want to do them in VR.
Right.
But this kind of takes it to another level. Like, you can switch between 3 dragon forms, and depending on the form, you get more
1040 easy, different forms.
Okay. Tax forms.
There we go.
It is tax season. Well, Brian's a little slow today. I apologize. When did I start talking about myself in the third person? Friday.
10 episodes ago.
And we've been doing this a long time. But yeah, depending on which dragon type you're using at the time, your offense will go up or your defense will go up, and they all have their special abilities.
Yeah.
Which is great. Some are more dexterous than others, so they can maneuver. And all of those dragon forms can level up. Are we dancing? Is this going to happen? I'll get put some music back there. So yeah, you can level all of them up, which gives it some depth. It's not just a straightforward shooter. And I mean, it's awesome. I thought when the Saturn died, that was it.
Yeah,
that was it for Panzer Dragoon. I was about to say, Sega. There's no way Sega thought this was going to sell. Who wanted this? I mean, a bunch of people did, but this was a passion project. There's no way that anybody thought this was going to be a million seller. So, highly recommended. Moving on. So we're going to go to another game that actually ended up being a huge seller. Not only was it a big seller, it actually spawned a sequel and then an entire other series of games kind of like it. We're talking about X-Men Legends. X-Men Legends was 2004, made by Raven Software. It was their first console title, and it's an X-Men RPG, role-playing game. Really, I have to define RPG? Sorry. I don't know who you think our audience is.
I know, right? A video game is a game that you... Okay. It's, I was a huge and still am an X-Men fan. I know the Avengers and Iron Man have taken over the cinematic universe and they're super popular, but there was a time back in the 90s where the X-Men were pretty much the only thing Marvel ever talked about. Iron Man, the Avengers were sort of like second or third tier characters. Right. And I was absolutely a Marvel fanboy and absolutely an X-Men fanboy. This game came out and I was immediately hooked. In reading about this, the original idea was to make Final Fantasy, but with X-Men characters. Mm-hmm. But they found that kind of a little unsatisfying, so they started adding more action and combat. And now it kind of plays somewhere between a traditional role-playing game and something more like your isometric dungeon crawlers, like Gauntlet or things like that, where your characters are actually moving around in the space and actually going up and combating enemies and whatnot. The basic idea is you have a 4-person squad, and you can jump from control of each of those 4 people. Eventually, you'll unlock 15 different characters. So you start a level, you pick out your team of 4, and then you go through the level, and you can jump back and forth. As you go through the level, you can swap out your teammates. Someone dies. As long as the other 3 people can make it to the next checkpoint, you can swap them in and out.
Is there a multiplayer component to this?
There is a multiplayer component. On the console, just pretty much at any time, like Brian could come in and take over one of the 4 characters.
Right on.
There, there's also other modes where you can, have your co-op fighting against hordes of, generic enemies coming at you. It's a great game. It's not based on any particular version of the X-Men or storyline or what have you. You start out with the character as Alison Crestmere, who you may know as Magma. It's a very typical plot of new kid's first day at Xavier School for Gifted Youngsters, and hijinks ensue. Cell-shaded characters, but very high-resolution cell-shaded.
Yeah.
Well, high resolution for the time. So you get this, they pop just kind of like the comics characters, but also the backgrounds aren't cell-shaded, so they kind of stand out, but they don't get lost in the background.
I knew there was something about that.
Yeah, it's a really neat art style, and, I know it's weird. Before I did this show, I didn't realize I had such a love for cell-shaded games, but apparently I do. Apparently, all you need to do is cell-shade something, and Des will play it at least. But I think being based on a comic property, that makes sense for this.
Next week, why we love cell-shaded games.
That may not be a bad idea.
We've already talked about it all.
Right, a couple other things that I thought were interesting about this, and as I was reading this, I thought, you know what? If there ever is a Without Parole Games drinking game, one of the...
Podcast canceled. We found what we're doing tonight.
Yeah, we're all dead. We kill our audience.
Michelle will outlast us all.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, she'll be the last one standing, for sure.
But anytime Des mentions the N-Gage, you drink. Because this also came out for the N-Gage.
Yes, it did. I remember that.
Absolutely. And it really a lot of times when there's the console version, the PC version of the game, and there's a mobile version, it's really nerfed and really dumbed down. This wasn't. I mean, it plays it's more isometric than 3D, I guess. It's a little more obvious on the N-Gage, but other than that, gameplay almost is exactly the same. Very team-based, and here's the cool thing. Multiplayer over Bluetooth.
That's ridiculous.
How about that, right? So if you had an N-Gage and you had friends, which you probably didn't.
Those two things don't go hand in hand.
But if you had an N-Gage and you had friends who also had an N-Gages, you could all play this. So,
This has been wanting an N-Gage episode of this forever.
It's not going to happen. No. I know. The only other things I wanted to mention. Oh, another nice thing. All new storyline with different versions of characters, like there's Emma Frost and whatnot in her normal original version, but you did get to play flashback scenes where basically Professor X would tell you a story. Oh, I remember back when, and then he would play a little mini version of a classic X-Men story. So it's definitely worth picking up if you can find it. There was a sequel, X-Men Legends 2, and eventually their popularity led to X-Men Ultimate Alliance, which had a few sequels of its own. So
nice.
Great game, a really interesting take on the role-playing game idea, and check it out.
Definitely. And if you don't want to check it out, well, there's been footage behind this the whole time. You don't have to even move.
One thing, I don't know if we can make it time, but because X-Men is such a team book, there was actually what were called combos. So if you were Iceman and you use your power, and Storm used hers at the same time, you would actually get bonuses because you were using the proper chains and combos off each other. So
fantastic.
Yeah, great idea.
That is a pretty great idea.
Well done, Raven.
Way to go. I can't remember what else Ravensoft did, but we'll get back to that.
And the Engage version was made by Barking Lizards. I don't know what else they have done, but
This is a great name.
It's the best name I've ever heard for a developer so far.
Absolutely. Barking Lizards.
Barking Lizards.
Way to go. You ever heard of a game called Advent Rising, Des?
I've heard of it. I've heard of its author more, though.
So it's funny that you bring that up immediately.
Yeah.
Because this game is notoriously penned by Orson Scott Card, who is, notorious for his own reasons.
Yeah.
We don't have to go there. But he is a sci-fi author. And I kept finding conflicting reports that he didn't actually write this game.
Really?
Yeah.
Because that was the story. This was Orson Scott Card writes a game.
Yep. He may have co-written it. He definitely co-wrote the dialogue. But that's as far as I've been able to get confirmation of it.
Huh.
I found a lot of articles that said this game is mistakenly credited toward Orson Scott Card as the author. So
doesn't it say it like on the back of the box?
Who can trust the back of the box? The back of the box said this game was good. So this was a 2005 Xbox game, console exclusive. It was supposed to be, talk about learning to walk before you fly.
Mm-hmm.
Because this was supposed to be a trilogy.
Yep.
It was supposed to be a comic book. It actually was a comic book. It's supposed to be a novel. There was supposed to be a side game, not part of the trilogy, for the PlayStation Portable called Advent Shadow, which of course I was looking forward to because I bought a PSP on launch day.
It's okay.
It was good. So this was published by Majesco,
UMDs, yay!
developed by Glyphix. Yep, exactly. Now this was they had all these huge plans for this game, and actually they managed to shove a lot of it into the game itself. But because they put so much into the game, often frame rates would struggle. Collision detection was sometimes iffy. You'd get like your character would get caught on walls and stuff like that. But instead of focusing on the negative,
seems like a lot so far.
This game has a great story.
Really? Okay.
Yep, and it's especially for a sci-fi game at that time.
Mm-hmm.
This was 12 years ago.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong, there were great sci-fi games at the time, but this came out of nowhere. This wasn't like hey, this is a Star Wars game. It's gonna be
That was totally new IP.
Yep. So
new IP. Wow.
Yeah, there was vehicle combat. There was this. So here's what happened. I put the game in today.
Okay.
And I loaded up a saved game. I was like, I can't wait to see where this is going to put me, but starting from the beginning would have been silly. I had already started from the beginning years ago, and I didn't want to go back. So what was funny was that the targeting system. I was like, oh man, this thing is so antiquated and outdated. Because what they had you do was like, if you run into a room with enemies, and to target an enemy, you flick the right analog stick in the direction.
Okay.
Just flick it. Like, don't even hold it. You flick it in the direction of the character you want to target. And I was like, why is that a thing?
Okay.
But then I realized because it has a pretty epic dual-wielding system for weapons. So your left trigger and right trigger are actually assigned to two separate weapons. So you can pull out both guns and fire them separately. So those triggers could not be used for targeting.
Oh, I get you.
See what I'm saying here?
All right, so kind of throw fire. Oh.
Right. So I've got like this missile launcher in one hand and like a pistol in the other, and I'm just like killing people left and right and flicking my stick constantly. It was pretty.
And there was the mature tag.
So I gotta say, like, even though like at first I was like, oh man, this control scheme shows its age. Minutes into my saved game.
Yeah.
I was loving it.
Right.
I was loving it. I was like, more games should use this control scheme. And I didn't run into like a terrible number of bugs and frame rate issues that everyone talks about. They're there later in the game. I know they are. I've watched lots of videos. But it has a great look to it. There's kind of like this, It's like this simple look where it's like it almost looks like low polygon count. How the characters look a little elongated.
Yeah.
But it feels nice. I was running through the space station. and like people are just having conversations. Like there's just the whole place is littered with people. Like it feels like a populated space station. And like you walk into the locker room and there's just like people hanging out, talking, having conversations. You walk up and you can hear them talking, and you just well, they're not people that I need to talk to, so I move on to the next room.
Which is something a lot of even modern games can't pull off. Like a little while ago we talked about I was playing my way through the Mass Effect series, and like this is this central hub space station where all the species in the universe gather. It's like, oh, there's someone down there. I'll have to run a quarter mile to go watch and see. Yeah,
right.
So
actually, and there was a funny. I don't know why I'm bringing this up, but there was a funny moment in one Assassin's Creed a few years back, where I forget if it was Troy Baker or Nolan North, but they played so many characters in the game that you could actually hear, like I think it was Nolan North talking to himself as two different characters. It's like that's hilarious. Yeah. But Advent Rising, it gets such a bad rap that like you almost go into it with such low expectations that you can't help but like it because you're like this is going to be such a bad game, and it turned out to be really good.
So your opinions are rising?
Yeah. I'm not begging for the trilogy to be finished. Like that's not something I care about. I would have loved that PSP game though. That would have been great. So I don't know. I don't think I have much more to say about this other than, I was pleasantly surprised.
Yeah.
Because it's been sitting on my shelf as like a curiosity for years now, and I finally gave it a shot, and it was really worth playing.
All right.
Yeah.
Where we go?
Are we on honorable mention time already?
No, I'm actually on my.
Yeah.
Yeah, we can do honorable mention.
What do you got?
All right. Well,
I don't care. We'll keep it going.
Yeah. All right. So I guess I'll just do this short one. This is kind of my honorable mention / thing. Mostly because you've probably played this game. If you're listening to this, you've probably played this before. It's probably one of the most well-known Xbox exclusives. Well, I guess now we can't really use the exclusive term but when it came out, it was an Xbox exclusive. This is Doom 3.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, Doom 3 was the relaunch, the reboot of the Doom franchise. It created a whole new engine just for this game. It's Doom.
But it's not Doom.
No, but it's not Doom.
This is the first time Doom didn't feel like Doom.
No, it really feels. It's kind of like telling. They do call it a prequel, and I guess it is technically a prequel. But in a lot of ways, it's the very same kind of story. Space station on Mars, accidentally opens a gate to hell. Go in there, start shooting things. It came out in 2004. In a lot of ways, you can feel kind of the DNA of like Half-Life and other first-person shooters that start trying to include a story into it. That's in there. It's weird if you read reviews, now like 10-year-old reviews on this game, they can't make up their mind if it's a great thing that it's pretty much just run and shoot things, or if it's a bad thing.
Yeah.
I follow the camp of it's a Doom game. I'm not going into it for intellectually challenging, morally wrestling with moral questions, storylines. I want to walk in with my BFG and blow stuff up. And this delivers. Some of the things it does really well, though. I mean, I remember at the time firing it up. Graphically, this thing is amazing.
Yeah.
I mean, even looking at it today, firing it up on an Xbox today and watching this, you're like, no, there's no way that these graphics were on the original Xbox.
Crazy.
They
ported it over to PlayStation 3 and 360, I think, later on.
Yes, 2012.
And I got to say, I remember playing it on PlayStation 3 and being like, Jesus, this was on Xbox?
Yeah.
Out of control.
And not only so, the visuals are great. There's one thing that, from a practical point, is kind of silly, but from a storytelling point, is fantastic. You have a choice. You can walk into a dark room, and there are a lot of dark rooms, and you can have your flashlight, or you can have your gun. That's it. So
You've only got one hand.
You only have one hand, or as many people pointed out, apparently in the future they don't have duct tape.
Right. Even in Silent Hill, like it's just like sitting in your pocket.
Yeah. Okay, that's kind of an artificial way to create suspense, but seriously, you're like, okay, I know that room's dark. Yeah. Am I going to walk in and see, because you don't have the time? Oh, there's a demon. Switch my weapon. Nope, I'm dead.
Doom 3 scared the crap out of me on numerous occasions. I wouldn't call it survival horror, but I might call it survival horror.
Yeah, no, they call it a survival horror, but it's really a shooter.
Yeah. But scary shooter.
What it does, though, is maybe it doesn't have the most in-depth plot, but what it does do really well, like we said, the graphics are great. The audio quality is amazing, and just getting you a sense of being in that setting. You know, you've got your HUD up, you've got your radio, and you just hear crackles of voices. All of a sudden, you know, someone you're talking to just starts screaming and gurgling and dying. And, well, there's nothing you can do about it. You just heard that. You hear, you know, walking around, all of a sudden, machinery clanks, and you jump half a mile. You know, I've made it clear my feelings on jump scares. Not a big fan. I think it's kind of cheap. But, yeah, I guess this is one of my guilty pleasures.
I've made it clear I'm a huge fan. Keep them coming.
One thing I do love, eventually there was an updated version, they call it the BFG edition, that did come out for PlayStation 3, Xbox 360. I think you can still download all those servers. It's on Steam now as well. Linux, I think there was even a Mac port of it. But there is something in there called the duct tape mod.
Oh, nice.
That does let you have a weapon and a flashlight at the same time.
I love mods.
So
they make games complete.
Yep. And, you know, I misspoke at the beginning. I said it was Xbox exclusive. It was the only console it ever came out for.
Oh, yeah.
There was the PC edition. And one advantage the Xbox had, though, the PC version didn't have originally, was 2-player co-op.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so 2-player co-op, survival horror. Just get out there with your chainsaw and cut up demons.
And also for the record, anytime I say console exclusive, I mean probably on PC as well.
Yeah.
The loose terminology.
One other thing, this was... For a nerd, you know, I love this. So, Half-Life 2, huge fan of those games. But really, if you want to... Halo does the same thing. If you want to use this computer console, huge, big alien computer console, you walk up and press A to do thing. Okay, not very immersive.
No.
In Doom 3, all the consoles actually had user interfaces. You would walk up to it, and you would engage it, and you'd have a little crosshair reticle show up, and you would have to, you know, open file, save, click. So it's little touches like that make you really get invested in this as a real environment, rather than, you know, Halo is the worst for this. Huge, ancient, alien computer thing. Walk up, press A to activate. Okay, well, that kind of takes me out of it a little bit.
Man, I hope Resident Evil 7 makes you actually physically put ink ribbons into typewriters and then type out your story thus far. Quirky keyboard.
Hit square to swear because you got ink on your fingers. Right. Anyways.
So I just want to throw one more out there. This, I guess, technically my honorable mention. I don't know. Whatever. Is
I'm playing fast and loose tonight.
This is another benefit we got from the demise of the Dreamcast. I'm assuming is Crazy Taxi 3.
You mean the Simpsons Hit and Run?
High Roller. Oh no, this is a good game.
Oh.
I know you like that. You're crazy.
I like that.
This is
there are dozens of us.
This is
Sorry.
This Crazy Taxi 3 is weird, man, because it's like all Crazy Taxi 1 and 2 were, you know, different cities and stuff, but this has all the cities. This has the LA looking one, this has the New York looking one, and I think specific to this was
Dubuque, Iowa.
No, Las Vegas looking one. Oh. I don't know what they called all these cities in the game, but they didn't call them that.
Yeah.
It's funny how some of these games will take you to another time, right? Like I jumped into this game, and you know it tells you to pick your city. There's some mini games you can play too, which are kind of cool, but I didn't get into those. And then each city has its own 4 drivers, so it's not like you're just playing the same 4 drivers in each city.
Okay,
that wouldn't make any sense. They're not going to travel to each city.
That's true.
They're Gabbies. So it gives it like a little bit of different personality for each city. But what really brought me back to the year this came out was that right. I brought the manual for a reason. It's 45 pages.
The year it came out.
We don't even get manuals anymore. This one is like weighs the box down. It's craziness. You getting there? No?
No.
Probably the very back page.
Yeah. Here we go. No, that's the warranty.
Yeah.
2002.
There we go. 2002. Just what I was thinking. 2002.
Actually.
Yeah, whatever. It's look how many pages there are. Things even pop out of it. So
45 pages for Crazy Taxi.
But right, what do you need to know?
The depth and the nuance, right?
Although I will say there are some special moves in this game, and I was never a good Crazy Taxi player. So could you jump in the original Crazy Taxi? I don't remember doing that at all. But maybe you could, and I just was a really bad Crazy Taxi player. But yeah, there's like special moves and stuff where you can like take off from a stop like real fast. But what brought me back was that immediately the Offspring started playing when I started a new game. It's like yeah. And it's like hit the gas and you're like off and picking up your first customer and it's just the soundtrack, Offspring and Bad Religion, and Methods of Mayhem. If you remember Tommy Lee's old band. Crazy. This brought me back to a very specific time in my life.
Social D?
No.
Okay.
No Social D. I think.
Sorry.
Citizen Bird, Methods of Mayhem, Bad Religion, and Offspring were the only 4 bands. But each one of them had like 3 or 4 tracks. It was crazy.
That's pretty good.
And then you're driving around and you pick up a customer and you're like, bring me the Kentucky Fried Chicken. And you're like, what? There's KFC is in the game. Like you literally drop them off at a KFC or Tower Records. It's just a whole different world. We don't license things like that anymore.
No. Apparently because we stopped falling for that as consumers.
Yeah.
Hey, you just made me watch a commercial.
Exactly. Yeah. But going back and playing it, it's just it's like a time capsule, and I loved it.
That's cool.
And I didn't want to stop playing. I think I probably played this for a couple hours because I was like, this is so much fun.
Yeah.
And I sucked. I still suck at it.
Well, Crazy Taxi is a blast, and any version of that, it's just run around like crazy. No particular you're not crazy simulation trying to squeeze every quarter second out of each lap. It's just run around like a maniac and drive through buildings.
And what I didn't say specifically about the Xbox itself, because we didn't talk much about the system, other than that's a PC in a box.
Right.
Is that like if you try to play Crazy Taxi on Dreamcast, you're gonna hurt your thumb. Like that little plastic crappy analog stick is garbage. And then the D-pad on the Dreamcast is probably the worst D-pad ever. It sticks way far out. It's really hard-edged plastic. You're gonna have a blister in a minute.
Yeah.
So playing Crazy Taxi sucks on the Dreamcast. The remodeled Xbox controller, because at first you get that big, gigantic, gargantuan one, which was
I kind of like.
Well, I hate it. But the remodeled Type S one for people with small, normal hands. Is awesome, and I played Xbox for hours and hours and hours today, and I'll say that I always credit like the DualShock 4 now, but even like back in the day, DualShock 2, 3, I love those controllers more than anything else. But I really surprisingly enjoyed spending a lot of time with the original Xbox controller Type S.
One thing is kind of funny. Like we're talking about this time of the 90s, early 2000s, and at the time, actually, I think. Yeah, around that time I was working at Staples, believe it or not. I know. Take a second, deep breaths.
You've really moved up in the world.
I know.
Without Pearl Games, it pays even less than Staples did then.
But one thing I will say is Microsoft was pretty well known for making quality computer peripherals. Just well designed, ergonomic without beating you over the head with it. And they took those design chops to the Xbox controllers. I think for every version of their systems, they've always been really well built, things that can handle being chucked across the room in frustration.
Yep.
And I even like the big one. I've got big long fingers, so that kind of worked for me. But Xbox, original Xbox, great system.
Do you see the breakaway cords they have too?
Yes.
So, which is fantastic. Yeah. If you've ever been in a room with a bunch of people playing a game, if your console's not on the floor, very often one of those cords will tug and pull the whole system down off the shelf, and then game over. Usually, like sometimes the system breaks, sometimes other things break. But yeah, how many times were you in a room with other people playing like Halo or something, and like somebody pulls the cord
and pop,
and it just breaks away.
Yep.
The cord just comes out. It's perfect. It's really great design.
We should clarify for younger viewers. Back then, controllers had cords.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you actually were physically attached to the console.
And games had instruction manuals. It's
back in my day.
Seriously, how old are we?
Old enough
Ancient.
to know better.
Ancient. Do we have anything else to talk about? Because we are going to come back next week and talk about a whole slew of more Xbox games.
Yes.
Are we good with what we've done?
I think we've done it next week. I'll even tell the story of how I got my first Xbox, which I think is kind of funny.
Oh, can I tell the story about what's wrong with my current Xbox?
Yeah.
I have to flick it a lot. It's like Advent Rising. Flicking.
Maybe I'll take a look at that for you. Because apparently I can fix Xboxes.
Sweet. Cool. Well, in that case, we'll definitely see you next week. But in the meantime, leave a comment down below. Tell us what your favorite Xbox game is. And since as we tell you this every single week, we sort of do all this last minute. We might take your if you tell us about a good game that we weren't thinking about, we might talk about that instead of whatever we were planning on.
Absolutely.
So for Gaming Without Parole, I'm Brian Paul.
I'm still Dezrah.
And we'll see you next week.